To know who we are, and where we're going, we must know how we arrived here. Welcome to Rephetic, a revolutionary study of the Great Pyramid, which promises to rewrite civilization's history. Have you seen any of these in the videos and stuff you did? This is the east wall niche in the Queen's Chamber. No? Have you seen that? That is the Great Step. Have you seen that? No? This is the southern wall of what they call the antechamber. Have you seen that?
Nope.
No? Okay, this is not a trial. But
Where were you?
Do you recognize this photo?
Yes. You're telling me you've never seen this, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so welcome. This is not an official podcast, which are discussions with friends, family, associates. This is the beginning of an Orthodox critique. Joe Smith.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hi, Joe Smith.
Hi, Dave.
We are going to attempt to get through the sticks and stones, if you will, or the nuts and bolts of the Great Pyramid in what seems to be a 4-part series. We'll probably break out into 4-hour-long parts. So the beginning of this, we, as an introduction, this is not a PhD defense. This is not an academic paper submission, okay? This is for everybody out there, and this stuff is kind of thrust to the forefront of the zeitgeist by a lot of YouTube channels, right? History for Granite, Ancient Architects, Bright Insight, and Uncharted X. There's a lot of people picking up the mantle from the people who did some of this, I guess you would call it pushback,
right,
from the alternative community.
So full disclosure for the viewers as well, I'm coming into this just as you are, as an intrigued mind, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are, yeah, maybe, I don't know. I'm right in the I'm intrigued and, looking for information, as he said, like the, what was it, Ancient Architects or Graham Hancock stuff and the Joe Rogan, and that's kind of how I piqued the interest.
Coming to the discussion.
Correct, and I just found it fascinating, and I know you've been working on this. I don't even know what Dave has been working on for 14 years other than the premise of the Great Pyramids. Awesome, congrats, way to continue to push through. However, I think got a higher being, something had brought our paths in together at this moment, because it's been very intriguing. It's been something that I've been in for like the last 6 months. Yeah. And again, no historical documents, nothing other than podcast, videos, etc. Yeah. So I'm not much of a reader. So if you send me your book, 99.5% chance it won't get read. However, I could potentially, if you did what is it called? Where
a picture book.
Not a picture book.
No,
the voice.
An audiobook. No.
Audio. Do an audiobook. That'd be great.
Okay, so for you and my other dumb friends, there's going to be a pop-up book. I'm just kidding.
Nice.
But the issue with an audiobook, for real, when it comes to my actual book, is it could be a companion piece only, because you just can't get it all.
You have to follow audio visually. Right.
Yeah.
Makes
so
sense.
So anyway, that's where you're coming from. You're kind of just an unbiased, man of the world, modern mind, right?
Yeah. I thought it would be a great. I'm actually honored to be here, because I thought that I don't have the bias, right? And there might be things that you say that I go, I don't get, or I don't agree with. Maybe I don't know, but I think as of right now, it's an open
book. Sure. Yeah. And I think that's where most people are.
I would agree.
So I discussed this. I talked about it briefly in other contexts. Is that so we come to this. It's like a dialectic model, dramatic model. There's a thesis, which is everything orthodoxy is talking about. Then there's an antithesis, where there's pushback on particular evidence or alternative theories, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
And then in the best case scenario, ultimately there's synthesis. There's something that resolves between the first two. Okay. And then this fits into the Kuhnian crisis model, which we're going to define just a little bit. I guess I could do it right now. So Thomas Kuhn, 1962, he's a science historian. He researches the different fields of science, and he identifies that these fields go through the structure of scientific revolutions, where we think we know something, and then there's pushback or there's competing hypotheses, okay, within any given community, let's say, right?
Okay.
Within any scientific community. So you could see this over the history of humanity as well. So here's a paradigm. There's competing hypotheses, and then at some point there's a paradigm shift, and a new paradigm is established and adopted by the people in the community. And so almost every scientific field has gone through this. And one of the fundamental parts of it is you could conclude we have to be wrong before we can be right. Nobody comes out of the gate being right about anything.
Right.
And this applies to all of humanity and all of science. Okay, so there's that. Like I mentioned, this is not a PhD defense. It's a popular discussion. The papers and the books and the images that we're going to talk about are going to have its own page on the website. Okay. So for the viewers, don't worry. I'm going to show Joe some stuff, and we're going to walk through this whole thing.
But content will be
it'll
uploaded. It'll be
specifically
available.
All the images, everything. Because listen. You can rewind and watch different sections over again. But I'm not going to slow down other than to just go through it with you.
Would there be interaction too with viewers, Q&A kind of stuff, or hey, what about this? Maybe
just in the comment section. I think that's
in time.
Well, yeah.
Be nice.
I think, be nice. I think we're going to do a little panel with a couple of other fellas, I think. So, again, leave comments if you have specific questions, just leave them in the video, and I'll try to get to them.
Awesome.
Or someone else. So, errors and omissions, I'm going to misspeak. Source material, real quick. What has happened, okay, is everyone rewrites even subtle little insights or observations or questions onto the base source material. Petrie's survey, and I think it was, I want to say 1880. It was after Weiss, after Smythe and some other people. Petrie goes in, surveys everything, measures everything to the 1,000th of an inch. So that's the source material. It gets lost on people. It's like, you want to know about the Great Pyramid, read Petrie's book, and you'll almost know everything about the facts of the forms, the features, the chambers, the shafts. Everybody else is basically just commenting on the same stuff, okay? Mm-hmm. Anyway, so there's that. I mentioned the three camps in this discussion. So for right now, I'm going to assume that most viewers, you also are in the agnostic group in the middle. You know, we don't have our own Orthodox book. You don't have your own alternative book. You know, I've seen, people that are already invested in a particular thing. That right. They're the
belief in.
This
in particular. Are we talking about them?
Not my stuff.
No. I'm saying about what is out there right now, or what is that what you're talking about in terms of the?
Yeah, the agnostics are just everybody in the middle. We don't. So, and we'll get to this, but we have, docs and images on the website, 4-part series. I also want to make an open invitation to any Orthodox academicians, any acolytes supporting that. Was talking today, and even over the last few days with an archaeologist in Scotland. So anybody that wants to debate the facts of the Great Pyramid, or even Giza's geology more specifically, give me a message. Come on in. We'll do one. We'll do a podcast on the phone. Any open invitation, anybody that wants to do it. And I mentioned too in the podcast, this popular discussion began because, and I'll have the outline of this debate, critique, quote unquote, on this web page as well. It began because I proposed this debate with someone, an Orthodox supporter,
and will remain unnamed.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, his name doesn't matter, but he refused to do it. He doesn't want to talk about the evidence or defend Orthodox claims. Okay, so that's how this all started. This part of it. Okay, so you are along for the journey. Welcome.
Yeah.
And we're gonna go a little quicker after this little bit.
Yeah.
So, Petrie's book. Another quick thing that I'm going to start with is keep this right here. I'm going to start with this, Joe.
Okay.
So there's give or take 1,000+ volumes on the Great Pyramid, right? There's like 34,000 volumes on civilization's history. There's give or take 24,000 volumes on ancient Egypt. Okay.
Okay.
There's a lot to read that I'm not reading and you're not reading.
No. Factual data.
So if you get through, even if people get through one or two Orthodox books, you're going to get a good digestion of what the cumulative consensus is. Yeah. So this is from Craig Smith. Hey, Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually my second cousin.
Second cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so we're going to lay out some of this, the landscape of our Orthodox history getting to Egypt. And then
I love it.
Oh, and so back onto the 4-part structure.
Right.
So we're going to do this general landscape first, and we're going to dive into the interior. Next sets of videos, we're going to do the exterior and the essentials of the build. And then lastly, we're going to do some of the general crisis elements surrounding the discussion. Okay. So those are the 4 parts.
So is any of the parts include man at the time, or
yeah, we're going to cover some of that now.
Okay.
But yeah. That's next, and more specifically, and I don't even know if I have it in my note, but there's a foundational thing which is what we seem to struggle with. AMH, anatomically modern humans, give or take 300,000 years, the oldest modern AMH skeleton skull that we know of or has been discovered, I think, and we can check this, is give or take 300,000 years ago. Okay? So we have been the same subspecies, Homo sapiens sapiens, for roughly 300,000 years that we know of now. Okay? So regional function, size of the brain, things like this, leads to observation, ingenuity, invention. So you can conclude, and different people, Sapiens is a book, Harari, and there's other people that have kind of framed this, but literally the base assumption of our species is that humans have been just as capable of everything we're capable of now. Okay, so IQ goes up over time with epistemological learning. Mm-hmm. Okay, but it's a foundational thing that Stone Age people were just as capable of observation, ingenuity, invention. Okay, yet when we look at the archaeological record, it's like, well, what evidence? Do we know the evidence that would even suggest that, right? So it has been concluded before, let's say Göbekli Tepe, right? The buried site in Turkey.
Right.
It was concluded forever that there's no sophistication or even rudimentary sophistication before Egypt and Sumer, okay? Which is the birth of civilization, Western and Eastern.
Which timelines they had said?
It was anything before 3000 BC, and we'll get into a little bit of that. But then here comes Göbekli Tepe, give or take 10,000 BC, 10,500 BC. Yeah, well, maybe, but they dated some of the remnants that were there when they buried it. Okay, so they kind of know the age of the complex. But that site was, these hunter-gatherers did this sophisticated stonework, and what the actual site is. Okay, so that suggests that now we're moving. Now we're given more sophistication,
Dating back further.
yeah, to what were otherwise hunter-gatherers,
Right.
in groups of 50 or 100 tribes. That was it. The concluded paradigm is that AMH have been these hunter-gatherers before the Neolithic Revolution, which we'll get into in a second, for 295,000 years. This is what we're doing. That's it. Okay? No wheel, no writing, rudimentary language, right? We have this very, very unsophisticated view of AMH before the birth of civilization, okay, or before the Neolithic Revolution, let's say. Okay, so this whole discussion starts off. I'm gonna read this. This is chapter 1, Craig Smith, paragraph 2. Constructed as a tomb of Pharaoh Khufu, the Great Pyramid stands as a splendid testimony to one who could conceive of such a work. One could inspire and command dedication necessary to accomplish this monumental public works. Henceforth, I will refer to it as Khufu's pyramid. Okay? The reason I'm mentioning this, obviously, is we're leading with who, when, and the what and the why. From the jump, virtually every Orthodox book starts with tomb, Pharaoh Khufu, 2500 BC, end of story.
Right.
Okay? So that's the starting point for most of what is talked about. Okay? That, Orthodox, yes. This began in Western culture with Herodotus, 450 BC, give or take. Okay? Greek historian, the father of his story. Okay? Starts with this guy. Before that, we've got hieroglyphic writing, but at the time, we're illiterate when it comes to reading hieroglyphs, up into the point of discovery of the Rosetta Stone, and then its translation by, did I just forget the two guys? Jambard, no, that Jambard was not it. Champollion and the other guy. Anyway, I'll remember that in a second.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry.
1 out of 2 ain't bad.
Sorry.
Good job. Way to bring it back.
There's two. There's
two.
Young and Champollion.
I almost said young.
Champollion. My French is not good.
I like Champollion. Mm-hmm. That's good.
Okay, so you're doing a lot of listening here. Sorry.
No. I love it. This is what I'm here for.
Yeah.
I'll make comments from time to time.
Okay, so in this whole scope of things, if people want to learn more, Dr. Bullitt, there's a series of lectures from Columbia. Hey, that phone's ringing again. It rings almost every other podcast.
Does it?
Yeah, but it's nice. It's a
nice.
good interruption.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, Dr. Bullitt, Columbia University, great lectures on the early birth of civilization, okay?
Okay.
So
well, brief what he, in a nutshell?
Well, yeah, I'm going to go through some of it.
All right.
It's not really a summation of his work. This is just the landscape. So we've already covered some of it. This 300,000 years AMH, right? What's AMH stand for?
I have no idea.
Anatomically modern humans.
Okay. Anatomically. Define.
Modern.
Use it in a sentence.
Body type, size, brain size, regional functions of the brain.
Okay. And just so I'm clear, viewers are clear, proof, documentation, we existed in some form 300,000 years ago up until...
In this form.
In this form.
Yes.
I thought you were saying like hunter-gatherer, caveman type.
I'm talking about until the body, the brain size.
But no civilization.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, and then listen, let's start with defining civilization. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to speak a lot about cultures. And the reason is... the proper, you can look up the definition of civilization, but it is the collection that is most advanced. Okay? A collection of culture most advanced. Okay? I would argue that we're still not there. Okay?
From previous history.
From our history. Okay?
Okay, right.
I'm saying
Our previous civilizations.
previous culture.
Culture.
Let's just call it all culture. Let's call it
Okay.
all culture, because I would argue that we got 2 million incarcerated people in the U.S. I would not call that most advanced. We still have nuclear weapons capable of annihilating our entire globe's population. I would not call that most advanced. Joe has to put his phone on silent.
It is on silent.
Oh.
I don't even know how
Or
you
even
heard that.
ignore. Or put it up on that,
up here.
on the windowsill.
I don't know so.
Yeah, all the vibrations.
I know. That was nice.
Yeah. Okay, so I would argue that we're not most advanced, even today. Okay? Most.
Since all the cultures.
To meet the threshold of civilization, okay? I think that cultures that you would deem civilized would not be, they would not be killing themselves with their food. They would not be polluting the oceans with plastic. They might not have nuclear weaponry, okay, capable of destroying themselves.
So not just based on technology.
No, of course.
Based on civilized.
Most
Yeah, okay.
advanced.
Okay.
Also, you could make the argument that let's say cultures or governmental organizations that are not purely democratic are not most advanced. Okay?
Okay.
You could make an argument that most advanced would be that everybody votes on everything. We don't have that currently, right?
Okay.
We've had it at different times, but anyway.
Okay.
But this is just a technical thing.
No, I got you. I think this is going to change from a 4-part to a 12-part.
No. We're going to get through it.
No,
we're going to get right through it.
Hey, no. I like it.
Okay,
I like
but
it.
I'm just.
Just tell me if I piss you off.
No,
and you're
it's
like, hey.
no. Come now.
I'm joking.
It's just the words we use. There's some words that just we're not there.
Got it. I'm with you.
All right. So Kuhnian crisis we covered. Dr. Bullitt we covered. Columbia University. Our technical history. So basically, technical history in a nutshell is that the wheel was invented in Turkey. Okay.
Okay.
So our first evidence of the wheel comes from the steppe region in Turkey, and then essentially moves southward into Sumer, and then later into Egypt. Egypt, let's say, during the Middle Kingdom. Okay.
Give me timeline.
I'm going to give you this. Well,
you really know the wheel?
3,500 BC. Again.
Really? The wheel? 3,500 BC?
Yeah. Anywhere between 3,500, it makes it to Egypt by give or take 2,300, 2,200.
I can't wait to talk about this stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The time, like, most intriguing to me.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the big scope of history is what is deemed Upper Paleolithic, which is the closest period to us, prior to 9,700 BC. Okay?
Okay.
So there's geological time, and then there's sociological time. Okay? So in the geological time, the Younger Dryas was at the end of the Upper Paleolithic time. The Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic are sociological time frames. Okay? So the glacial maximum prior to 9,700 BC, let's say, Paleolithic, okay? And we can talk more about the Younger Dryas stuff, which is about a 20-year-old study, and there's, give or take, 100 papers on the quick melts, sea level rise, this kind of thing. That's all.
So glacial ice age.
Yeah,
that was
prior to
9,700
BC. Yeah. So we come out of that. Whoever survives, some estimates that we were maybe down to 1,000 adults after whatever that cataclysm was. So That puts us in the current geological time, which is called the Holocene, okay? Now, that time in sociological terms is called the Mesolithic. This is the in-between, okay? And so in the Mesolithic Stone Age also defined by stone tools, which is another problem. Okay, I mean, for real.
Yeah.
So right now, the most sophisticated, advanced scalpel is what? Do you know this?
No.
It's obsidian. It's a volcanic glass, okay? Which is a rock.
Okay.
That's the scalpel to use, okay? So by that definition, we're in the Stone Age. Yeah. There's nothing to say that a stone tool is not the absolute best tool, okay?
Okay.
So that's a sidebar.
Okay.
Anyway, so we get through Paleolithic, the AMH history dating back 300,000 years. We get the Mesolithic, which is these are regional, right? Farming is not developed. People have not gathered into cities and out of the hunter-gatherer phase, right? Now, with one exception, you could put Göbekli Tepe in there. Is wait, these hunter-gatherers all got together in one place. So the Mesolithic is not that clear, okay?
Yeah, doesn't that kind of throw a wrench in the whole?
Yeah, it has. It has. And so regionally, different groups at different times transition to agriculture and being stationary. That is called the Neolithic Revolution. So
groups of people.
Yep, settling down, farming, domesticating animals. This comes out of
more community, maybe.
Yeah, just bigger, and surplus. So hunter-gatherers, you got to hunt today for the next week's food. Yeah. With farming and the Neolithic Revolution and surplus, we can set food aside to get through the winter, etc. So that's it. Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, and then the geological time frames. We're in the Holocene. Okay.
What's the Holocene?
That's this is our temperate current global geological time frame.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so habitable. Seas are what they are. Ice caps, north and south, are what they are. Right. We're still in a glacial period because there are glaciers. Okay. We're just not at a glacial maximum. Okay. Where there was the maximum amount of glacial cover. Okay. So this is like the landscape.
Got it.
Along with the technical history, and there's more to that. Independent wheeled carts, so you could actually steer. Okay. These are the technical developments. The first scythe, where they were cutting wheat and crops, that was discovered, give or take. And I think it might be Sumer, it might be Turkey. I think it's prior to 3500 BC.
Prior to.
Yeah. So we have evidence of the Neolithic Revolution. Okay. So they kind of know what these people are doing, but running along the same developments, we got our technical evolution, right? We've got our sociological evolution as we enter the Neolithic Revolution, okay? So what is societies become larger? There's more interdependence, okay? Things like this. The Indo-European languages, of which I don't want to quantify it as most, but all the Western languages come out of the Indo-European languages, okay? There's basically 100, I want to say. I might be wrong about this. But that comes out of Turkey as well, and then morphs into all these various dialects and all these various languages, okay? Indo-European languages.
Okay.
We're not going to cover that.
We're not going to
cover
all.
That. Okay. So our sociological history begins to develop, right? At the time, we're working with mud brick, right? Which is you make the brick, you bake it either in a kiln or even sun-dried mud bricks, right?
Okay.
And then at some point, we enter our political, quote-unquote, political history begins. And for purposes of our study, it starts in Egypt with the unification of Egypt. Prior to that, the political and the religious kind of morph also, right?
Okay.
So the political evolution in Egypt starts with unification. I think it was, I forgot his name. It doesn't matter. Okay, so Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic. We kind of covered some of that, right?
Right.
Okay, technical history, spiritual history, right? So the first, we start with the Epic of Gilgamesh. Okay, so there's evidence of writing, the clay tablets and cuneiform script in Sumer. And then there's also evidence of early hieroglyphics, pre-dynastic, let's say Dynasty 0. They go back before the unification, and they call that Dynasty 0, before unification. Unification implies Dynasty 1, okay?
Time frame. Unification.
3000 BC, give
Okay.
or take, unification. Dynasty 0 is maybe 100, 150 years before that, where we're not unified, but there is writing. And so what develops, and let me just look at these notes real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, by the way, while you're looking that up, when you sent that to me, my brain almost exploded. Are you looking at that map that you sent me? I'm like, I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah.
Information overload. Not to mention, I don't know what half of it
It's
means.
on there, yeah.
Yeah, but interesting nonetheless.
Thank goodness. I mean, this was like coming to this discussion. I was like, I don't know. I'm not prepared.
Yeah.
But that's where it started. Started with a mind map. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
there's so much to cover.
Yeah.
And again,
Hopefully the start of something great.
yeah.
And definitely
so
got
we're-
me intrigued.
we're-
So
Yeah, we're going to get through this and then move on to the Great Pyramid. So, but just frame in some of this context, obviously, too, the Great Pyramid context, and I'm talking about mud bricks. Here's another thing, the evolution of burials in Egypt, okay? So it starts with, they would dig a shallow sand pit grave and just dump the body in, little ceremonial thing, cover it up. So the sand, what the sand would do, and this is covered in like the history of mummification.
okay.
The sand would dry out the body like quickly, right? Or the desert, air, sand, whatever. So this, you would have at least maybe partially mummified body, but because they were shallow sand pit graves, jackals, coyotes, whatever, would just dig up the dead.
Right.
So they started stacking mud brick mastabas on top of the burial. So we're going to bury somebody, and then we're going to stack these mud brick on top. So this is the evolution of the mastaba.
Were they in shapes of pyramids?
No, but this is thought to be the origin
Okay.
of the pyramid, okay? So, yeah. The origin of the pyramid is concluded to be a progression, an evolution of mastaba construction, okay? And most people would know that, just if they watched any of the Orthodox stuff. Speaking of that, when I mentioned those other YouTube channels, there's a lot of Orthodox stuff too. The National Geographics, the Smithsonian, History Channel, Discovery Channel. These guys are all putting out content on the Great Pyramid in ancient Egypt as well. So this history, we're getting to the pyramid construction. Now, independent, or concluded to be independent, is in Sumer, at what becomes Iraq. We have a ziggurat. Is a pyramid. Let's identify it as pyramidal structure.
Okay.
Pyramidal over at Cahokia, that is an earthen mound. Okay.
Okay.
But it's a pyramidal structure. Ziggurats in ancient Sumer in Iraq. There's the ziggurat of Ur, I think, is the first, and it may not be the first, but it is the biggest, I believe.
Okay.
So, but it's also a pyramidal structure, but has a complete different meaning than the pyramids of Egypt, quote unquote. Okay? So it's used more as a priestly ceremonial sense.
Dated prior to the Great Pyramids, or no?
Not necessarily. I
Okay.
think in and around similar time. It may even be later.
So in any of this, real quick, just so I can wrap my head and stop thinking about it, anything that you're doing with your hypotheses and all that stuff,
Right.
any timeline issues, like with, because we talk about, again, blind guy here, just intrigued, massive structures. I hear stuff like hunter-gatherers. I hear a wheel,
Yeah.
and something to cut wheat, and then I see these massive structures.
And then all of a sudden there's the pyramids.
Right. And then I don't know if there's any other structures like that or anything around that timeline. So do you have an issue with the timeline itself, or does it have anything to do with, hey,
Yeah,
wait,
yeah.
we might have something wrong here? Because then I also hear about, what is it, Göbekli Tepe, or whatever. Which
good pronunciation. Most people
was
can't
it?
say
Have
that.
I?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Most people can't say that.
So that structure as well, hunter gatherers, right? So like, does any of this have to do with timelines and
Right.
what was going on? And because that's also been an intriguing part of this whole process, to say, like, was there this cataclysmic deal or multiple, or did we reach some sort of pinnacle
Right.
in human
then
society and
restart.
restart?
Yeah.
Right? And does that have a factor in the pyramids, or was this like, hey, no, I think they got the timelines right, and I think that evolution of humanity fits that profile, just how they did it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So again, so this is the nature of the landscape. Okay. So we read an Orthodox book, tomb, Khufu. Here's what it is. Here's when it was built, whatever. Okay. We are literally being asked, accept this at the beginning. Okay.
Right out of the jump.
And for the most part, the alternative pushback most of the time are starting with, let's reject this. Okay. So the when is a function of the who, is also a function of the what and the why. And then here's the unknown, is the how.
Right.
Okay. So that's what everyone's confronted with. And I want to avoid that. Okay. I'm not saying anything about the who or the when or the what and the why up front.
Okay.
Okay. So
I see. Just the how.
Just for this discussion, the evidence, what we're looking at. Do we know what we're looking at? What are our questions? Here's the Orthodox claims about the evidence. Okay. So to answer your question, yes, we have a new how. And again, if people have seen the channel video, the entire study is based on the one singular question, which is, has Giza's limestone bedrock always been a plateau? Based on the evidence and reason, could it have begun as a much greater mass?
Right.
Okay. So that's the single question that drives all of this.
Right.
But we're not going to get into any of the when and the this and the that outside of the focus on the evidence.
Okay.
So I just want to, let's just
Preface
delay.
that.
We're going to
Yeah.
delay that, any of those things.
Okay.
And that's really too how I came to the study, especially in the first 6 weeks. There's no reason really until we know as much as there is to know, which is what we're going to do. But how do you even, like, this entire study of Egyptology, if we call Petrie the father of Egyptology, okay, arguably the father of archaeology, then there's no reason to really doubt or question this entire narrative. And what we're getting to is, here's the timeline. Here's the evolution of the mastaba. right? Here's the evolution from mud brick construction up to the use of stone, okay? Here's the evolution. We come out of the Paleolithic. Here's the Mesolithic. Here's the Neolithic Revolution. Here's Sumer. Here's Egypt. Case closed. That's it. Now, and this also, it overlays on other sites. I'm not talking about other sites really either. There's plenty of questions and plenty of phenomenal or anomalous evidence at other sites, okay? So, you know, again, bearing people's patience and yours this is what we're drilling down on.
Got it.
Okay? So, yes. And that's why it's going to take so much damn time.
It's all we got's time, brother.
Yeah, I know, and that's why, I mean, other than my ineffective writing, that's why the book's not done, too. So do you understand so far?
So far.
We've got the landscape. Eastern civilization develops in Sumer. We have the first real structures there, the ziggurat, a pyramidal structure, okay? Western, again, I'm sorry, I just used the word civilized. I'm not going to use that fucking word. I'm not using it.
Right.
Western culture develops in Egypt. And then here, just to lay some of that framework even a little more, okay, Eastern culture continues eastward. Into Pakistan, into Afghanistan, into India, and then points east and north. Western culture, for let's call it give or take 2,500 years of dynastic Egypt's unification. 2,500 years later, we've got the Greco-Roman era, okay, where the Greeks, namely Alexander, right? Alexander the Great, his empire,
So-called.
the Macedonian,
Right.
right? And then they call it the Ptolemaic dynasties, where his number one general, and then several other after that, Ptolemies, is like the last dynasty, okay, that take over after Alexander dies. But this is Greek culture subsuming all of the Egyptian gods and practices, etc. Okay, and then the Romans come in. I just forgot the year. 45 BC. They subsume the Egyptian culture as well. All new names for all the same gods. Okay, virtually overlapping on one another. Okay, in that arena, we've got, quote unquote, best estimates are like Moses' time of writing the Pentateuch is 1500 BC. So Egypt's 3,000 years of dynastic history, let's call it, sets this broad landscape as well. Old Kingdom, at least two intermediate periods where this whole society breaks down. Middle Kingdom, then New Kingdom, okay? So we're working from oldest to newest, okay?
All right.
So in all of that, we've got, Howard Carter's 1932 discovery of the King Tut tomb. We've got the discovery of the Valley of the Kings. We've got all these pyramids resting. Right now, there's 118 pyramids in various states of ruin in Egypt. South in the Sudan, they start building diminutive small pyramids, right, as burials, etc. So we've got this entire pyramid building culture. And then current conclusions are other independent cultures, South America, China, et cetera, they just start building pyramidal structures or earthen mounds for a similar purpose, okay? Spiritual. Some of that is suspect because there's no burial, right? Even let's say Monk's Mound in Cahokia, we overlay this hierarchical sociological structure onto that culture. Think that the king lived on Monk's Mound with his, queens or whatever, okay? That's not clear by the site at all, right? Mound builders. Have you heard of the Mississippians in North America? Anyhow, Mississippian culture. This is give or take. That's another topic for another day. But the Clovis First narrative, which Hancock covered in his last book, America First, or America Before. So, but the idea was people came from Asia across the land bridge in Alaska during interglacial periods, come down through the slot between glaciers in Canada and populate.
I've heard that.
North America. At some point, they populate South America. There's little or no allowance for seafaring people to just arrive by boat, okay? The Polynesians, Hawaii or South America, whatever. I think recent DNA samples have shown this Polynesian DNA all throughout South America. Like maybe they just got here by boat instead of this land bridge idea.
Right.
Okay. So this goes back to the AMH base assumption, okay? And seafaring is a huge question mark in that. Do you need to find the actual boat that dates to 200,000 BC, let's say, to know that the seas are an open highway, not a mountain range?
Right.
Okay? Well, current Orthodox thought is nobody sailed the seas before Magellan. Nobody, the Egyptians at the time were limited to sailing up and down the Nile and maybe localized in the Mediterranean, okay? There's no suggestions at all before that people were crossing the oceans, sailing, or in a canoe, or whatever. Zero allowance for that. I would argue this AMH base assumption, we can all observe the world. We know, you stick around on this planet for a year, you're going to see us pass through the Taurid meteor stream. You live long enough, you're going to see a comet, right? You're going to see eclipses. You're going to see a volcano. You're going to see a bog caught on fire, right? There's all kinds of things going on in nature.
Right.
And we observe it all with no questions at all. We don't duplicate any of this stuff, right? This idea of the wheel, let's say, a dung beetle, right? Moves backwards and rolls this little dung ball around. You're telling me that we don't see that and think, oh, we could just make a round something to move something.
Right.
Okay, the dung beetle's doing it. Duh, we're not going to do that, right? So anyway, I think all of those conclusions are suspect for particular reasons, right?
I would agree.
Yeah. So where did we leave off? Okay, so this 3,000 years of dynastic Egypt, okay? We get the Isis and Osiris mythology. We get the progression of mastaba construction, burials, right? They have elaborate mud brick, quote-unquote mastabas or pyramids. And then we build up to the first stone pyramid, which is concluded to be of Dozier, Djoser. You don't have to write that down.
Thank you.
And this is third dynasty, give or take 2650 BC. And those numbers, all of these numbers, they've dated a lot of things, but there's a margin of error of maybe even a couple hundred years, okay, in all this dating. Yeah.
But that's not a huge range.
No, it's just, it's
So
hard to nail it.
you answered my question.
Which,
so
what?
About the timeline, you're like, hey, marginally within a couple hundred years. So
Marginally within a couple hundred years, we have this. We have the current conclusions. Okay, so Egyptian in the Old Kingdom, we moved to using stone. Now, before Dozier's pyramid, which is the step pyramid, you've seen it. It's kind of in ruins.
Yep.
And I think it's 5 levels of stacked mastabas. Okay, this is concluded to be the first stone pyramid. Before that, they did use stone, I think, in a dam construction. So it's not like it was the first time they ever used stone. Even prior to that, there's some walled temples also that use stone. So, but here we are, King Dozier, his vizier / architect, Imhotep, who later becomes a god, okay, because he makes the first pyramid. He becomes worshipped as a god. I'm not saying that he becomes.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I've known you long enough.
No. I'm just saying, even in their culture,
right?
It's not like it was God Imhotep. He was revered as a god.
Gotcha. So, hey, real quick, structures besides like the pyramid and this unification period, where did they live? What were the structures like?
I haven't spent as much time studying, let's say the first 3 dynasties or Dynasty 0, and what their structures would have been. But little diminutive walls and some sort of reed roof, and I think there was limited amount of wood at the time in Egypt as well. So before these quote-unquote stone structures, I think they were rather rudimentary housing units. Okay? Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to me that those are the living structures and these are whatever spiritual-based structures of massive proportions.
Right.
It's just,
I don't know that anyone would want to live in it.
No, but I'm just saying.
I'm sure they
especially
I'm sure they built with stone at these fundamental housing units with walls. They can tell living room, potty room, makeup room, the green room, if you will.
The green room.
Yeah. Come to the green room.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, this is Old Kingdom. So what we have is an established, I call it a pyramid building era, PBE, let's call it. Okay. So Dozier and Imhotep build the first pyramid at Saqqara. Okay. What happens, and again, this is a step pyramid, again, pyramidal structure, right? But this is a stepped pyramid. And there's a couple different kinds of step pyramids. There's, and I guess there's a theory called accretion theory, which is if the one who is intended for the burial structure dies before it's complete, we can still bury him. Okay? That's called accretion. But they also identify layering mud bricks around a central thing, accretion build. Okay, so it's used in 2 different scenarios.
Okay.
There's accretion theory, which is maybe multiple burial stages if the ruler dies before the structure's done. The word pharaoh, and again, errors and omissions. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but
maybe
it translates to house. So I don't know why we still use that word. There's contention over the word pyramid also. Okay. And again, I don't think there's any resolution, and I'm going to try to stay out of some of that, because it doesn't really help this work at this point.
Yeah. However, I like the sidebars. I think the viewers would appreciate it too, because you're just dropping some basic knowledge on things that, may or may not necessarily pertain to the work.
Right.
However, gives you an idea what's going on, which helps me out. So I think it helped them out.
Yeah.
So,
and then again, this entire corpus of knowledge was really unknown prior to Champollion and Young having this decipherment of the Rosetta Stone. So
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
Well, you can look it up.
Why don't you just tell me real quick?
You could look it up too.
How about viewers? Should he tell us? Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. So a French soldier, his name's Boucard. Okay. he discovers a stone as Napoleon is on his conquest of the Nile.
Okay.
You with me?
I'm with you.
Okay, give or take. Oh, all these dates. Come on.
Yeah,
come
you're
on.
doing so good.
1796.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, hey, that's not 100% accurate, but
Check.
it probably is.
Check the date.
It probably
Check the
is.
date.
Yeah, so Napoleon, he's taken over the Nile.
Yes.
Picard
discovers the stone, like in a fence row, in the town of Rosetta.
Okay.
That's where it gets
Hence
the name.
Rosetta Stone.
Yes. So the Rosetta Stone contains 3 different blocks of texts that all say the same thing.
And they say?
It describes some accounting process. Okay.
Accounting
process. when we look at, let's say we look at the constructs where everything is reduced to money, okay? It's like, because even the Sumerian cuneiform script is used as for accounting, okay? And then Rosetta Stone, I don't even know that I read what it says, okay?
But it's accounting.
Sorry.
No,
Yeah,
it's accounting.
yeah.
It's not the secret to life. It's
No.
not. Hey,
Not at all.
All right, got it.
But
okay, anyway,
so
found.
the 3 so Coptic Christian, okay, is a particular language. Then it's written in Greek, and then it's also written in hieroglyphics.
Wow.
Okay. This is the gateway to understanding hieroglyphics, the 2,000 character alphabet, if you will, of hieroglyphics. Okay, there's an issue though. Only 1/3 of the hieroglyphic text was present. 2/3 of it is gone. So they Champollion and Young, right, which you know by now, right?
I know who they are.
Discovered by Picard and Rosetta. So they have to refer to other text to get the character translation, okay? And so I think at the end of my work, there's going to be some questions about this decipherment, because there's so much we don't know. Like, it's concluded, well, the Egyptians didn't speak of. Here's why I think it's suspect. We're using the word pharaoh, which means house, to describe a ruler. Okay.
Right.
There's Perba, Perka, Pernetter. Okay, these are Egyptian words which we think we know what they are referring to. Like, this is a temple, this is a house, this is a tomb, whatever. Okay. I use this on another discussion. For example, the county coroner office with the cadavers. Would you consider that a tomb?
No,
Why not?
because they don't keep.
Would you consider it a
Dead
tomb
bodies in there.
10,000 years from now?
Are there dead bodies
Yeah.
that stay there?
Sure. Some catastrophe 10,000 years from now.
Oh, yeah. True. Yeah.
Here's
Okay.
50 bodies
Yeah.
in a
structure. Yes, most certainly.
Yeah, okay. But it's not a tomb. Okay?
Right.
So to think we know what's a temple, what's a house, what's a tomb, what's a whatever, okay? There's issues, I think. Anyway, that's a little sidebar.
I like the sidebars.
Where were
Keep it
we?
going.
Okay, Dozier, Third Dynasty.
Yeah, Saqqara.
Saqqara. Yes, the step pyramid.
First
built
pyramid.
by the architect Imhotep.
Imhotep.
You didn't hold
Okay.
that. Sorry.
No.
Okay, all right.
Dude, you're throwing a lot at me.
No,
but
I'm sorry.
I'm doing good.
No, you are. You're doing great. Okay, so I apologize. Let me apologize. I apologize to you as well.
Don't apologize.
Okay, so we get to this pyramid building era of the Old Kingdom. Now, Saqqara, there's plenty of discoveries at Saqqara. We'll stick a pin in one of them, which was the 40,000 stone vessels, little stone jars.
Okay.
40,000 of them discovered underneath the pyramid at Saqqara. Okay?
Okay.
Where Djoser says, these are an inheritance from my ancestors. Okay?
Okay.
He doesn't claim that they're his.
Okay.
So what do you put in 40,000 stone vessels? We're going to stick a pin in that.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So we move from Saqqara and Imhotep and Djoser to Snefru. Snefru of the third dynasty. Snefru builds at Meidum, which is a little different style than what was done at Saqqara. Meidum uses basically an accretion method, but if you look at the Meidum structure today, okay, I identify it as a wrapped obelisk because its structure is there now, just the center, and then they wrapped around it.
Okay.
So that's a very significant difference in Meidum versus these other pyramids. Okay.
Okay.
Meidum is somewhat in ruins, and also at Meidum was the transition from a step pyramid to a smooth-sided pyramid, where they effectively filled in the steps with casing material, backing stones, casing material.
Just like the Great Pyramids.
Yes,
right?
yeah, and these other two, which we're going to talk about. So Meidum. Now, it's concluded Snefru spends his whole life building 3 pyramids, okay? Which seems inconsistent with the tomb notion, okay?
Okay.
I haven't heard as significant assimilation for why Snefru builds 3 pyramids when he only needs 1 tomb, okay? So he builds at Meidum, then he builds the bent pyramid. We're familiar with the bent pyramid, where the first angle and then the angle of ascension gets lower.
Okay.
Yeah. The two part.
Yeah.
It's long been concluded that there was some error, some collapse that forced them to reduce the angle of ascension. Okay. That's been the conclusion. I think it was.
And you're good with that?
No. No, because later laser scans, and I've talked to the guy.
But say it. I think I know what you're about to say.
Well, so they do a laser scan of the outside of the bent pyramid. If there's failure, there would be bulging on the exterior. Okay. There is no bulging.
Okay.
It was planned to be the way that it is.
Okay. Do you think it had anything to do with time? Like the time when it was built? Because I heard something about like structures being built on structures, different periods of time. So it started as this base,
right.
Hence could have even been covered.
Okay, right.
You know,
and then
by land,
maybe
built on top, then built on top, then built on top.
I suppose that's possible at the bent pyramid, but I don't know.
And not necessarily that one, but just others structures.
Yeah. Well, and this is the case. We find this throughout archaeology. Is you just keep going to the lowest layer, and you find the older stuff. Obviously,
right.
Older stuff's underneath.
Sure.
And I'm sure there's a name for that. I just don't know the name of it. So I'm pleading ignorance.
That's okay. No, that's okay.
Okay, so this, does this make sense so far?
I'm digging it, dude.
Okay, so so we're getting up to, and then we're gonna dive into the Great Pyramid. Okay.
Are you feeling like we're doing good? Like,
yeah, it's just a lot to cover just to get to the fucking pyramid,
right?
At Giza.
I think it's important.
Okay, fine.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you guys think it's important, right? We want to know what the hell's going on. We don't know.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah. And listen, this is covered in every other book as well.
But you know what you did?
What?
Is you took this book, and I'm sure there's a lot more information, but you said, hey, this book will translate to those books to say, hey, this is the
essentials of what you need to know.
Like, so for this purpose, hey, this is the essentials that this is going to say. Go ahead and read 1. Go ahead and read 100. They're going to start here.
Yeah.
So I like it.
So, again, this is just a synopsis of this, laying this whole groundwork, the landscape, if you will.
Laying the landscape, man.
Okay, let me just double check and see if I got everything in here that we've covered, because we're getting to, okay. I'm going to pick up at the bent pyramid.
Okay. Bent pyramid, yep.
Yeah.
That's where we left off.
Okay, so, yeah, that's enough.
Was there anything else you were going to talk about? Is it Snefru? What's his name?
Snefru.
Then was there anything that you were going to mention about, hey, the 3 pyramids, and if it's tomb based, why 3? Was there anything more to that,
It's
or just
an
like, open question?
Yeah, open
All right.
question.
Just
stick a
dangling.
pin in that.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Okay, so in this entire study also, okay, when we fast forward, there's the pyramid building era, okay, and it's also concluded that the evolution of masonry technology, okay, that starts at Saqqara, that we can track the exact evolution of masonry technology right up into the 3 pyramids at Giza. Okay, and that there's a through line there. Okay, that's suggested to be a supporting context for the dating also of, and I'll say this here, but when we get to the Giza pyramids, the three main pyramids at at Giza, unlike Craig Smith referring to it as Khufu's pyramid, the technical name is G1. The middle pyramid's G2. The third little pyramid is G3. These are concluded to be of Khufu, Khafre, Menkure. Okay, G1, G2, G3.
Okay.
So I most often will refer to them by those names. So Snefru builds at Meidum, the wrapped obelisk structure. Interestingly, a pin for later as well. There's 2 other sites. Well, I'll cover that later. I was going to talk about the Great Pit and the site at Abu Raush, okay, which is also another pit, okay. But we're going to cover that later.
Okay, got it.
And
we'll pin it.
Yeah, we'll pin it. Those, whatever process occurred there, or whatever those structures looked like, very similar to the Ellora caves in Egypt, and then some Ethiopian temples, monuments, where they build either by masonry construction or by sculpting, okay? The Ellora caves are the most fantastic, okay? You take a hillside of granite.
Yeah, I've seen those.
They
Amazing.
literally sculpt, not construct the temple within its own granite hillside.
I've seen those. Amazing.
So you got a granite square pit, and the temple's right there.
Yeah.
One side of it's open.
Amazing.
So similar, the Great Pit and Abu Raush. Similar in process, let's say. Okay, so Snefru goes, then the concluded 3rd pyramid of Snefru is the Red Pyramid. So we reduce the angle, and I want to say, anyway, reduce the angle and end up with this true pyramid. Smooth-sided pyramid, okay?
Got it.
The concluded pyramid building era then shifts to Giza. So we got Dozier, Imhotep, Snefru, Meidum, Bent Pyramid, Red Pyramid. Then Snefru's son Khufu is said to have chosen Giza as a site for construction of his tomb. Okay, so this is all. These are the first. Let's call them the first 5 major pyramid buildings. Okay. There's others. There's other pyramids or pyramidal structures. Let's say. Okay.
Over 100.
Well, there's 118 total. Some before, some after the Old Kingdom, before and after the Giza conclusions. Okay, so this lays the landscape. So the narrative and the conclusion, the Orthodox consensus is that Khufu selects the site at Giza for his pyramid. And then you watch any of the documentary stuff, here they're out there. We're going to stake the site. We're going to level it. We're going to build this pyramid, okay? Following Khufu, his brother Geoffrey is said to use the site at Abu Raush, okay? And his other Khafre then builds the middle pyramid, G2. And then Menkaure comes and builds the third pyramid at G3. Okay, so this is it. And then also, there's a total of 10 pyramids on the Giza Plateau. 1, 2, 3, 6 little Queen's pyramids. That's 9. And then there's a what they call is a shit.
They call it a shit? That's where it came from? That's where that word came from?
Sorry.
No.
A cult pyramid. Okay. And for those that want to dive into early research, whatever, Lepsius was a researcher. He wrote a small book about pyramids in Egypt. And this became the Lepsius rule, is that pyramids are tombs, period. End of story. Except cult pyramids, which don't have a burial chamber, like we were talking about pyramidal mounds and things like that, right? Or South American pyramids with no burial site. Right. Or Chinese pyramids, maybe, with no burial site.
Would I be out of line to ask you what you think they're used for?
Well, okay, so this has roots in also a thing called the Benben stone, okay? And again, I'm not an expert on the Benben stone, but the Benben stone was said to be a small, like, token stone that was pyramidal shaped, okay? Like maybe you carried around in your pocket.
Okay.
And it was also ceremonial, and I don't have all the details on this, but an early temple, it was either referenced or discovered the Benben stone. So small pyramidal stone, okay, as a token, so to speak.
Right.
Similar to cult pyramids. It's like, well, we're just going to build one to build one. Okay?
Right.
But the origin of the Benben stone it's not clear. And it's concluded to be maybe somehow interwoven with their origin story, okay? Mm-hmm. Where Mat and Nut breathe life from the waters, things like this. So the Benben stone occurs in and around a very similar time, early Old Kingdom, okay? Right. But again, I'm not...
You didn't answer the question.
What was it? Cult pyramids?
No. Sorry. Just pyramids in general. Do you align your hypothesis about the structure itself being used as a tomb, a greater structure? Do you have any input on what purpose it served? I know there's some cool stuff about alignments with the stars, and
we're gonna get to all that.
Okay, good. Okay. Just tell me. Hey, we'll get to it.
No, we're gonna get to it.
No,
we're gonna get to it.
It's all good.
But here's what I would say. Cautionary, also. Mm-hmm. And then we're gonna get into the pyramid's interior. Like,
let's go
quickly. Cautionary tale is, like we talked about, the county morgue, okay?
Right. Bodies don't just equal a tomb.
Yes, bodies don't equal tomb necessarily, right. Okay?
Because that's growing up, right? Being taught in history books, and from what I remember of anything, I don't even know if you'd want to say back in the day, the Natural Geographic or whatever.
Right.
It's, hey, like you said, King Tut tomb, and that's what it was. They found, a body of a king or a pharaoh, whatever the case may be, and gold and trinkets.
30, give or take, plus or minus 3,100 items included in King Tut's tomb. Okay?
Right.
We'll get to it later, but again, I don't want to bias the viewers. I don't want to bias anything with even talking about the what or the why, right?
You don't even want just the how.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, no, I mean, we're talking about laying the landscape for all this and the Orthodox critique. We're gonna cover all that.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so here, real quick.
Yep.
We've covered all this landscape, the Orthodox dating of the Great Pyramid, mm-hmm. And then we're gonna skip we're going to be done with this segment.
Okay.
We're going to go into the pyramid itself.
Okay.
And start with the interior. But Orthodox dating starts with Herodotus. Okay. He tells us who the pyramid belonged to. He gives some description of the. And again, this was translated from Egyptian priest through a translator to him.
Okay.
And they don't speak the language. He's a travel writer.
Okay.
Okay. He's telling us who the pyramid belongs to, and he gives some summation of how it might have been built. Okay.
Okay.
That begins Western study of the pyramid. Later, we've into the scientific era. Okay. So Weiss, Colonel Howard Weiss. Mm-hmm. He's a religious adherent. He's a former British colonel, maybe. Military leader. Mm-hmm. He's the one that blasted dynamite into the south face. He's the one that blasted through above the so-called King's Chamber to get to the attic chambers. Okay. He discovers, yeah. Okay. And so here's another stick a pin in this is at the time, the biblical narrative, the false start about the globe and our species is the prevailing narrative, okay? Some discovery in Egypt, translation of hieroglyphs. We're going to learn something there. And the fear seems to be, there might be a fear that whatever we're going to learn is going to disrupt this narrative.
Right.
This biblical narrative.
Right.
Okay? So that seems an easy conclusion to some of Howard Weiss's motivation. So Howard Weiss discovers in, I believe it's the fourth attic chamber, this cartouche of Khufu. And then there's other red ochre graffiti, call it graffiti, quarry marks, things like that, in the attic chambers. Mm-hmm. This is concluded to be original, not a forgery, okay? Every opportunity is there for it to be a forgery, okay? He was familiar with the hieroglyphic texts. He was by himself, right?
Right.
So there's some, and in recent years, and I'm going to cover these other two real quick, and we're done with this segment. But the quote unquote science of Orthodox dating began with the Howard Weiss discovery of the graffiti. Then it quickly shifts to Mark Lehner and company. They do sampling of organic material from the pyramid's core, okay? And then they do C14 testing, and it gives us basically a rough window of what the date of that organic material is. Issue with that, you don't know when that organic material was settled on the core and in the seams. And I emailed them also. I said, well, while you're C14 testing it, did you check what the bonding agent between the organic material was and the mortar samples and things like that? Could it be salt, right? Where salt just automatically encrusts out of this limestone as it dries. There's other historical accounts of, New Year's Eve bonfires on top of the core. What do you do with that ash? It's scattered across the core. How many fires do you think were built on top of the exposed core? Where does all the coal and ash from those fires go?
Why are they starting fires on the core?
It's the Great Pyramid, man. You're going to have a New Year's Eve party on the top, and you're going to bring your wood with you. So anyway, my point is, you don't know when that organic material was deposited on the core, okay? There's no wood in Egypt. There's a pile of wood somewhere. Hey, this pile of wood's been sitting there since 2500 BC. Maybe. Okay, so I'm saying there's no way to know that, but it's concluded to be exact science. Okay.
Right.
Then comes the third one, which I'll talk about briefly, and then we got to move on. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay, the third one is Mer's papyrus. Okay, recent discovery, and I just forgot the guy's name. So Murr's papyrus is the oldest papyrus that we've discovered. Okay, and Murr was a shipping, in charge of shipping Torah limestone from Torah, which is across the Nile,
Right.
to the Giza Plateau.
Distance. Do you know?
10 miles.
10 miles.
Just call it 10.
Give or take.
Give or take.
You're
So-
close on that? You
Yeah,
feel pretty good
close
about
enough.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Torah was the casing stone, much finer than the Giza, which is the Macadam Formation, the brownish limestone at Giza. Torah white limestone is shipped across the Nile to the Giza Plateau. Murr's papyrus, and we could go into a greater study of Murr's papyrus, but it is the latest. Talit, I think the guy's name is. It is the latest. Here's the science. Here's case closed on Torah limestone being shipped to the Giza Plateau and used on the Great Pyramid. One issue with that, the shipping logs mention nothing about where the limestone went. Was it prepared or cut or used on the Great Pyramid itself? Okay? There's all these other projects going on in the plateau. Okay?
So you just said shipping records.
Yeah.
So there's no question that
Torah limestone was shipped to Giza.
via the
Boats.
Nile.
Yeah.
Right.
Without question.
Case closed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
You got that, viewers?
Yeah, we're gonna.
All right.
We're going
'Cause
to get to this
yeah,
later.
I got
No,
it.
I know.
I got
But
it.
these are the three things that were used to date the pyramid, along with the progression in masonry technology, right?
Right.
And the whole context.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
Also, on the plateau itself, surrounded by cemeteries of Fourth Dynasty courtiers, right?
Okay.
Hemiunu himself, the supposed architect, concluded architect, the Queen's pyramids. So we have cemeteries and tombs, all Fourth Dynasty, surrounding the structures. So it fits the Fourth Dynasty context. The masonry fits the Fourth Dynasty context. It's concluded that it does. Vice's graffiti says Khufu. Wow, that must be original because it's in a attic chamber that was not accessed. Absolutely. Okay. But what happens and then Lehner's C14 testing of organic material, and then Murr's papyrus. Okay. So what happens in this whole thing is, as soon as you have something more solid, we discount Vice's graffiti.
Okay.
That's not what they're marching out as proof and evidence anymore. We've got more solid evidence, the Lehner testing, samples and testing. We're not even going to reference that anymore. We're going to reference Murr's papyrus. So
Okay.
it seems we have just a waterfall of more significant evidence and more significant, call it science. Anyway, so that is the basis for the Orthodox dating of the Great Pyramid. Within the context, within the masonry progression, and by these three things, okay?
Okay.
And that's it. It seems like it's a pretty solid case, right? And we'll pin some of that stuff. We're going to talk about Vice, Lehner, and Murr later.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go to the pyramids.
Let's
interior.
go. I'm excited.
All right? You guys are in. Stick around for the next video.
Yeah, let's go.
Like it, share it, subscribe. We'll see you on the flip side. To know who we are, and where we're going, we must know how we arrived here. Welcome to Rephetic, a revolutionary study of the Great Pyramid, which promises to rewrite civilization's history